Good evening, guys. I'm Chris, and welcome back to another episode of Rift Amps. Okay, the WEM Dominator Mark 1 bass, so this is the 15-inch speaker version, is now all done. So up and running, and it sounds great. So just like we did with the Car Mercury, just going to run a loop through it, and then you can hear exactly what it sounds like. We're in channel 2, and treble and bass are both at noon, about 4 on the dial, and I'll just advance the volume so you can hear. Well, we'll call that one complete. Sounds great. It's getting on a bit now. As I've mentioned in previous videos, a lot of the traces on the circuit board now, the minute you go near them with a soldering iron, they just start to peel away. So it's getting to the end of its life, this thing. Maybe consider a hand-wired conversion if he wants to keep it going in the future, but it's up to the customer, of course. But for one that had been sat in a shed for a very, very long time, it's glad to have it working. It sounds great. The 15-inch Celestion sounds brilliant. Really, really happy with that. So yeah, we'll call this one done. Give the customer a call. He can come collect it. Just a couple of caps, a couple of resistors, and one preamp valve was all it needed to get this thing up and running. Okay, Q&A time. Lots of great questions this week. A lot of them are follow-up to previous questions or subjects that we've covered before. So you might need to go back to last week's Q&A for some of these. But anyway, Michael Smith says, to compare a real Fender to a Tone Master, you wouldn't need to have them in the shop at the same time. When you get the next Deluxe, Vibrolux, Twin, etc. here in the shop, put it on the analyzer and note the positions of the volume and tone knobs on the amp, record the video, then make an announcement on a future video that you're looking for one of your local viewers to bring in a comparable tone master for analysis. Yes, you're right, that is one way to do it, but proper testing, proper A/B side-by-side testing is always done at the same time. Obviously, there's lots of reasons for that, but it's the fairest way to do it. But also, during that testing process, we might discover something on one amplifier, and then we want to check it on the other amplifier. And if the other one's not here, because I've already done other tests on it and given it back to the customer, we might not be able to get a proper true comparison between the two. So whilst you're right, yes, that is one way of doing it. It's not the most thorough, it's not the most complete, and it's not the most fair way of comparing those two units. So that's why I want to get both of them in here in time. I want them running on the same wall voltage at the same time. Everything, all the variables removed that I can, and then we can do accurate testing in comparison between two in different scenarios, different settings, and things like that. So yeah, great question. Thank you, Michael. But if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly. Okay, just had this thing dropped in for service. Now, the customer contacted me through Facebook and said he's got an old 100-watt Laney that needs servicing. And I'm thinking, oh, great. This is going to be fantastic. And this is what we brought in. Now, nothing wrong with these. It was actually a bit of a shock because I have not seen a pro linebacker since the late 90s when I was a much younger man than I am now. PL100 reverb model, 1x12. He's had it in storage. He said it's got a couple of issues that he wants sorting, but I'll show you what he's actually brought it in for. But yeah, the pro linebacker, wow. So anyway, it's a 2-channel amp. All looks to be in reasonable condition. It's missing the nut off the reverb input there. But that's about it really. Apart from that, it's in pretty nice condition. I remember these to be quite bulletproof actually. Anyway, we'll turn the amplifier on. Bit of a thump, couple of noises. While it all fires up, he said a couple of the pots are noisy, and this is his main concern. Is that in particular this volume one. Something going on there. Do some fun noises with that. So we'll get the chassis pulled out. We'll have a look inside. Shall we place some bets? Do I think? Well, the pot's definitely noisy and scratchy, so definitely needs a good cleaning. But because of the issues we're having there, I suspect we've got maybe a dodgy solder joint or two. But yeah, PV, no, not PV, Laney. God, Laney Pro Linebacker. Let's pull the chassis out and have a look inside. Okay, my name was Techno Ask. Great video as always, and I love the honesty about how frustrating running a small business can be at times. Thank you. It's kind of one thing I really wanted to have on this channel was not just the good bits and the upside, the upsides of running your own business, but also the things you struggle with. Got to be honest, got to be open, got to show what it's like and how difficult some things can be, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, thank you. I'm glad you recognise that, and I promise I will always show you when it goes wrong as well as when it goes right. Anyway, he says, was wondering if I could talk about standby switches. He's new to owning an amp and was hoping you could talk why amps have standby switches and the do's and don'ts of using them if your amp has one. Wow, what a hot topic, right? Standby switches. People have argued about these things for decades now. Do you use them? Should you not use them? Why do they have them? But only why Do some amps have them, some don't? What's the point of them? What are they for? Where did they come from? All that kind of stuff. And there are probably a billion forum pages full of arguments about standby switches. So where do we start? Do we get into it in this video? It's a tricky one. I would argue that, and this is my general advice, is that no, you don't have to use them, but you can if you want. And most, I would argue 99.999% of the time, you're not causing any damage by using one. Do you need to use it? No, absolutely not. That's the top level basic answer. One level down, and we could go 10, 12, 15 levels on this, but one level down is unless you understand how the standby switch has been designed, implemented in your exact amplifier, it's difficult to know the best way to use it, if at all. And this is why you get different answers. So, as an example, standby switch in a black panel Fender from the 60s is very different to a standby switch found in a Vox AC30 from a similar time. Same with Marshalls and things like that. There's lots of different ways to do standby switches, and therefore there may be lots of different ways to optimize their use, if at all. So do you need to use them? No. Can you use them? Yes. Should you use them? How long's a piece of string, right? I never use them on my own personal amplifiers. If I design and build an amp that does have one, I always make sure the standby switch is installed and operates in such a way that there is never any risk of any damage to anything or overstressing anything by using it, but also there's never any risk of overstressing or damage anything by not using it. Okay, so all of my amplifiers, I do my standby switches in a certain way that means it's safe to use them or not. Okay, whether your amplifier is like that, you need to have a look inside and work it out. Would I recommend people use them? Again, it's it's amplifier dependent, but my general rule of thumb is if you're not sure, don't use it when you turn the amplifier on, don't use it when you turn the amplifier off. But if you want to use it for muting the amplifier quickly, for plugging in guitar or unplugging stuff or whatever, feel free to use it. It's fine. Guitar amplifiers are surprisingly robust and tolerant things, and switching off the high voltage, which is what a standby switch does for a short period of time, isn't going to cause any issues. Well, I hope that helps. I probably will do a longer video on it at some point, but the reason I tend to stay away from it before is it just invites all of the keyboard warriors who know better than you and want to have to put their 2 cents in. And if you're not fully informed on what they're doing and how they work, it just becomes very tiresome. So, but yeah, if you want to use a standby switch, feel free, go ahead. We've probably now got 50, 60, 70 years worth of standby switches being used with very little downside. But also amplifiers that don't have them operate just as fine as well. So yeah, it's probably not as controversial as people make out. Okay, progress on the 57 Tweed limited edition, limited run amps that I'm doing. The ones that could be ordered either with a Celestion Blue or the limited edition silver Alnico Celestion 100. So, as you've seen, I've done the boards, and I was just marking up the chassis, So what I've gone ahead and done is just one of them all the way to this stage. So, remember I marked out my IEC socket, my rectifier, 2 output valve sockets, my 2 preamp sockets, all the controls along the front, and I've now gone ahead and drilled all that out. So I'm just doing a dummy fit at the moment, and if I'm 100% happy with everything, I can then go ahead and continue drilling out the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th chassis. So that's where we are. Yeah, I think I'm happy with the spacing of everything inside relative to where my board is going to sit. Transformers over here. Got some of my custom rift wound transformers. Big beefer units that maintain all of the original tone of 5e3 transformers without any of the downsides. So yeah, it's actually the same set that I use in my Americana. Big old chunky beasts. Look, but there you go. Yeah, so this is coming on nicely. I just keep getting finger marks all over it, so I'm constantly cleaning these. But I'm going to go ahead and start mounting everything, just so then, well, especially just all like the transformers, bits and pieces like that, so I can do a dummy fit inside the cabinet and check that we haven't accidentally built in any clearance issues. We won't have. I've done this a million times before, but just in case, do your checks, know where you are, catch any issues now before you proceed on to the next stage. So yeah, that's where we are. Well, that's where I am with these builds, which is great. But yeah, coming along nicely. Right, there we go. So chassis with the transformers loaded into the cabinet. There is, can we get in and show you, ample space up in there. Clearance for the output transformer. I mean, I don't know how much it is on camera, but 2 fingers. Ample space there, so we're going to have no issues with that. And I've just, to confirm, put one of this JJ6V6s in, where the chassis is going to sit, and we've got 1 fat finger space there, which is more than adequate. So yeah, really happy with that. That's coming together nice. So now I've confirmed all those measurements. I can't even say it. I know these are all good, and I can transfer those over to the other ones. So yeah, I'm going to crack on with this build, make a note of everything. That's how it's going to sit. So you've got the 4 inputs, volume, tone, dual light, on-off switch. And we're going to have the riff logo here where it usually says deluxe. Be quite cool. But yeah, that's great. Really happy. Henry Hunter says, on the subject of capacitors, do you remember we were talking about axial and radial capacitors? He says, I saw a video of someone cutting open a Weber can cap the other day and was surprised to see the inside with 3 cheap axials. Is this common practice nowadays? On the budget end of the market, yes, it absolutely is. When I say budget end of the market, I mean general consumer. I don't mean the high-end boutique stuff. Yes, it is pretty common practice. You see it all the time. The problem is when you say cheap axial or cheap capacitors, they may well be functioning perfectly well, and they may be great, and they may perform brilliantly. So you might not have anything to worry about. But the difficulty is making capacitors that fit in the old form, especially with these cans. And there are a couple of firms out there now who are making them in the old style. But yeah, you do see it a lot, a tiny cap in a large enclosure. Is it a bad thing? Probably not. It doesn't bother me. But I know what I like and I know what I would use. So, yeah, it is common practice. Is it a problem? No, not really. Here we go then, inside the Laney. It's dated, sorry, it's upside down, 20th of January 1992. Wow. 240 volt UK model. And pretty simple design. So you've got your preamp board along the front, output board on the rear, joined by nice long cable, toroidal transformer, and that's it. Quite a simple design. And let's just get you a nice view. I haven't seen it, obviously. Shall I start that one again? During my visual inspection, I have yet to see anything that stands out as odd, burnt, weird, something, and anything that's out of the ordinary. And this is what I say to people: before you even start doing electrical testing, give your amplifier a good visual check. Yeah, you'll be surprised what you notice. Now, I want to show you something quite funny, or something that you tend not to see anymore. But you've got all these resistors here, 1, 2, 3, and there's a couple more on the board. If you notice, they are single stripes, just a single black stripe, which means they are 0 ohm resistors. Why would you need a 0 ohm resistor? Well, the clue is written next to it. It's a link. Where you've got PCB traces that need to cross over to another trace. Obviously, cross over a trace to reach another. That's a better way of putting it. It was quite popular in the 80s and 90s to use 0 ohm resistors there rather than bare wire links. Mainly for the pick and place machines that were loading these things up. So yeah, you quite often see in older equipment, I say now. I mean, this is now what, 42 years old? No, 32 years old. I saw another one as well somewhere there, and there's one there as well, and 2 there. God, they're everywhere. 0 ohm resistors. Anyway, this thing seems to be okay, but I suspect what I'm going to need to do is pull all the knobs and pots off the front and get this front board out so I can inspect it and look and get in to clean all the pots properly. That's going to be the course of action on this, I think. But yeah, it's quite clean inside, not a lot of dust, hardly anything. Looks like it's been well looked after. Nothing burnt, nothing damaged. I suspect it just needs a good old service. Okay, Lainey, I have removed the front board. I've given all of the pots and sockets a deep, deep clean. Put it all back together, and our noise issues have now gone. Just quickly run the loop through it. So we'll just bung it back in its cab, give it a final play test, but all this amplifier needed was just a good old service and a sort out. So yeah, I'll leave it soak testing for a bit actually, make sure everything is fine, but it actually runs and sounds great. Dirty pots on a solid state amp, never heard of that one before, but there we go. Done. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching once again. Please give this video a thumbs up. All your comments and questions down below. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, join the channel like these guys have, and I will catch you all at the next one. Sergeant Grinch, hello mate. How is the weekend racing coming along? You've not said much after the last suspension adjustment. No, I haven't said a lot because I haven't done anything. So for those who don't know, in my spare time I race cars. I have a Mazda MX-5 Mark 1 that I take endurance racing. That keeps me out of trouble, and it's something that I really, really enjoy, and it allows me to see, not only do I race the car, that I build it, I maintain it, I do the engines, the gearboxes, the diffs, so that it ticks that technical part of the brain that guitar amplifiers don't. So I really enjoy doing it. Usually I race once per month during the season, and the season's usually March till October, November time. So you tend to race once per month, and they call it payday racing. So the idea is that you're only ever paying for one race meeting out of one pay packet, and that's generally how the UK motorsport scene does it, which is great, that's fine. The confusion this year was that I raced in March, I didn't race in April, but I did 2 races in May, and that's why I didn't race in April, is because there were 2 races back to back in May that I really wanted to do, so I didn't race in April, saved my pennies up and did the 2 races in May. And from now on, I've got 1 race every month up until November time. Might do the Boxing Day races as well. We'll see. But I'm actually out this weekend at Cadwell Park, which is, if you don't know Cadwell Park, it's incredible. One of my absolute favourite circuits. Now, because the series I run in is they call it mini endurance, so it's 45-minute races, and there's a compulsory pit stop in the middle 15 minutes that you have to take. So there's a bit of strategy involved. Now, Cadwell Park does have a pit lane, but it doesn't have garages, so it's rarely on the calendar. So it just doesn't come up. So whenever my series gets a chance to race there, you jump on it, right? The last time there was a race there in my series was 2019. The first year that I went racing. It was in fact my second race, and it hasn't been on the calendar since then. So when I saw it on the calendar this year, I got my entry in straight away because I wasn't going to miss that. Now, I'm a bit of a collector in that I've scored a podium and a trophy at nearly every single UK circuit that we race on, apart from Cadwell Park. And so this weekend is my opportunity to tick that box. Now, even better is that the other series that I race in is also racing on the same day. It's Netterton. And most of the people that I usually race against are doing that race instead. So most of my competition is elsewhere. So not only might I'm on target to get a trophy, I might be on for the win. So, take your wins where you get them. I might not get another chance to race at Cadwell Park for another 5 years. So it's coming along, we're doing it. However, However, last night I stubbed my toe on the door frame and I broke it, and it currently looks horrendous, and I'm struggling to walk on it, so it needs to heal by the time this weekend comes around. It's currently Tuesday, not racing till Sunday, so I've got a couple of days to get the ice packs on it and get it healed. I am hobbling around a little bit. It's funny, but yeah, it was always going to happen, wasn't it? Something was always going to cause problems. But yeah, so that's the deal. I usually race once per month during the season. Got Cabell Park this weekend. The car's going in for chassis setup on Friday, just to confirm all that everything's in a line and the corner weights are good, all that kind of stuff. So that's that. So I've got Cadwell Park in July, back at Silverstone in August. Then I've got Donington Park September. October is Silverstone International, and also the 6-hour Burkitt Relay. So I've got 2 events in October. Forgot about that. Anglesey in November. So yeah, it's a nice run to the end of the year. Really looking forward to it. It cost me far too much money, but you know, it's a hobby, so what are you going to do? But yeah, that's we're looking forward to Cadwell Park this weekend. Such a circuit. Look it up. It's incredible. I can't wait to chuck the car around on there. And we shall see how we get on.